beep, 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 beep. Welcome to the court of the Edijester, and once again, another morning of weirdness. Weirdness. We are visiting the wonderful Ireland today, where we have this rather peculiar chap called Conor Sheehan, who's written an article. Like, it's just the most peculiar thing. As you can see, we've got a picture of him running around with a flag. But before we do, want to become a warrior teacher? Just simply fill out the form on the website from the link below. And we'll have a chat, see if there's anything to do, any good for you. Our next start date will be October. But this is really quite peculiar because it's written by a man who was born in 1993. Now, if he was born in 1993, he was therefore 10 in 2003. Right? Being cognizant of gay people at 10, well, maybe, Aunt Barbara and Aunt Lydia, or maybe, Uncle Bob and Uncle Jones. But 10, 2000, this is most peculiar. It seems to me like something that a victimhood movement would use. So a rewriting of history. We'll remember all victimhood movements, all of them fall to psychopathy. All of them without exception. That's just simply the way that it is psychologically when it comes to groups. And the look up at Q, hands, knees, and bumps a daisy crowd are no different. So the article begins, it's hard to believe it has been 10 years since GRA, Gender Recognition Act, became law. This is in Ireland. Many people I know have very fond memories of canvassing in the marriage equality referendum. I had a chance to reflect upon this as my friend and now Senator Laura Harman hosted a briefing in Leinster House to mark the 10th anniversary of the referendum, which brought together many of the people who made up the backbone of the campaign. This gave me reason to reflect because, truth be told, I don't have any memories of the marriage equality referendum. Right? I don't understand that. So you just said, I have very fond memories of canvassing, and then you've said that you don't remember it. It's just, look at that is what's being said, isn't it? Oh, he said many people I know. It's my mistake. My mistake. This gives me reason to reflect. I don't have any memories of the marriage equality referendum. I was not politically active, and I did not canvass or campaign. I was struggling internally at the time in my own sense of self. So he was in the closet. I didn't really know any gay people growing up, or certainly any people who were publicly out there as gay, other than David Norris. So you were born in 1993. It's 2003. You were 10. I'm sorry. Is it me, or does this not add up? What about Boys 1? Was it Boys 1 or Boys 0? That poor chap that died young. What was his name? This doesn't make, what 2000 were, that's Queer as Folk. Russell T Davies. By then we'd already had gay representation on television forever. Was it something that didn't happen in Ireland? It's most peculiar. Most peculiar. He says he didn't know anyone people who were publicly out there as gay other than David Norris. I didn't have any role models because as far as I was aware, they didn't exist. Other than in the shadows. This is just, I'm sorry, there's something not right here. What do you reckon? You tell me in the comments. I suppose in reality, I probably always knew deep down that I was gay, but spent my entire adolescence trying in vain to run away from myself. I thought that was what society expected of me. I understand that perfectly, and many other gay men will too, Connor. I remember in primary and secondary school, people using casual homophobia as part of day-to-day banter that comes with school, and no one batted an eyelid, certainly not to me. 'Twas ever thus, mate. 'Twas ever thus. I also distinctly recall growing up being aware of a couple nearby who were clearly a lesbian couple being told that they were friends because there were no openly LGBT couples in Limerick, none that we knew or talked about. Well, they wouldn't have been LGBT couples then anyway. It was only LGB. I don't think LGB had much of a presence. Growing up, I never felt that I fitted in anywhere. I didn't really like girls other than to hang around with and gossip to, nor was I particularly sporty, but I felt the pressure of heteronormative conformity. How are you doing today, kid? It's your 10th birthday. I'm suffering under the pressures of heteronormative conformity. I don't get this, right? Somebody put me right. Connor, what are you up to? Load of nonsense, I reckon. At one point, I even nearly almost had a girlfriend. Which point? You were 10 in 2003. So what was this? 5 years later? 2008? I constructed a version of myself with such a web of deceit around it that I felt like I would never be able to wind my way out of it. That's exactly how it feels, Connor. And most gay men would be able to tell you the same thing. I had spent so long in denial that I felt like it would look worse to undeny it. It takes equally as long, by the way. As the referendum campaign wore on 10 years ago and more people told their stories, I felt something change both in the way Irish society perceived and interacted with LGBT people, but also in the way I felt about myself. I no longer felt that sense of otherness that comes with not fitting in. Well, that's great. I'm really pleased for you, Connor. This just doesn't make any sense, mate. I heard and saw people who sounded like me, people telling their personal stories every day on radio, television, and on social media. I remember hearing Mary McAleese and her son Justin speak openly and bravely and thinking, yeah, that sounds familiar. Yes, this is a coming out story. I knew once that day in May came and the referendum had passed, I had to do something. I couldn't continue living in a web of lies. I've always been an extrovert. I rarely stopped talking ever, but there was this one thing I could not ever say. I knew I couldn't continue to live with one part of myself, my identity buried deep in the heart of myself. Here's where you're going wrong, Connor, right? It's got nothing to do with your identity, mate, right? Forget that. It took me another nearly 2 years to get around to telling everyone in my life that I was gay, something that was probably not a surprise to anyone who knew me well enough. So you sound, mate, like me. You sound, Connor, like a bit of a flamer, which is okay. It's okay to be a flamer. People love a good flamer. I finally come just not to accept who I really was, but also to love and appreciate my true self. Right, that's more cobblers, right? Don't fall for this identitarian guff, which is what you seem to have done. And with that sense of love and appreciation came confidence, that I deserved and needed better, that I deserved the same rights as my peers to live and to love and to marry whomever if the opportunity arose. Right, okay, fine. So you were an exponent of gay marriage. I never was, by the way. I became politically active in the years after the referendum. It was only really when I joined the Labour Party, what for? A party that has spent most of its existence dragging Ireland feet first into the 21st century, that I found my voice and finally felt confident enough to be who I really am. And this is great. This is great, Connor. But it just don't add up, mate. Sorry. The marriage referendum was a seminal moment in Irish history. It finally brought LGBT people out of the cold, or at least that is what it felt like for a while. I mean, it isn't LGBT people, Connor. It's gay men. But unfortunately, things have not continued to improve for LGBTQ plus hands, knees, and bumps a daisy people. Now you've gone and you changed it to LGBTQ plus. What have you done that for, Connor? You flamer? Right. Transphobia is the new homophobia. You can't help yourself, can you? You can't. Once a victim, always a victim, kid. This is what happens when you follow identitarian politics and end up going down a very dark anti-gay hole indeed. Transphobia is the new homophobia, and the world is without doubt more dangerous than it was a decade ago. We must redouble our efforts to stamp this and all forms of hatred and intolerance. You want to stamp out all forms of hatred and intolerance? Brilliant. That's almost as good as, Clinton's quote, wasn't it? We must hammer home to children that violence is wrong. Less than 1% of Irish society identify as trans, a tiny group of marginalised people who are now bearing the brunt of a world of toxicity that is only growing. No, they don't. Connor, you are miles off. The estimate is between 5 and 8% of heterosexual men enjoy cross-dressing sexually. So you're on the wrong track, mate. It's a very peculiar article altogether. Very peculiar. And he conflates being gay with being trans. Well, you can't support both, Connor. Pick a side. Pick a side, mate. Because you can't support both. All right, it's that simple. I find it very odd, but over to you. You may not. Let me know in the dubris what you think as usual, and I'll see you all soon. Subscribe, like, do the usual. Ta-ta, everybody. Ta-ta.